She's a sommelier, yes, and couldn't understand it until finally it clicked. He goes, Lord be Jesus, she gets paid to drink. And then I was the favorite. I was the smartest one in the family.
Well, hello again. Welcome to the Few Podcast. My name is Robert Schein with Madison Evans, my co-host, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 8, Women in Power series, and today's episode with our special guest, Katie Finn, and we're going to get into Katie's beautiful, amazing, very exciting story to listen to.
Yes, Katie is a wine shop opener here in the Coachella Valley. It's a great shop. I love going to it. Her wine is great, and she does lots of tastings there that are fun.
That's what we screwed up on.
What?
We should have done the podcast from her wine shop.
We should have.
Because
True.
we could have been tasting and she could have been talking, and then, all right, scrap this. We're going to do it over there.
We should have asked her to bring a tasting.
Well, I think that was bad on our producer's fault there. 8.5. The follow-up.
Katie has a very interesting background. One thing that I thought was really interesting is that her family is Irish and she grew up drinking whiskey, not wine. So she's kind of an anomaly in her family for loving wine.
You know, Madison, what was also interesting about Katie is that her passion wasn't wine originally. It was for politics. And so we're going to learn about her background and her journey to how she has a passion for wine. Today, she's a certified sommelier. I think I said that properly. I can't spell it. But she is fantastic. We've had Katie with private client dinners, wine tastings at her shop. It's amazing. If you just go there, she always has an event, but it's the story behind the wine. Every time she opens a bottle of wine for you and she gives you a tasting, she knows the story, not only of the varietal and the history of the family, and she brings that bottle to life. And it's absolutely exceptional. So there's nobody like that in the Valley. Katie is the one to know. If you know, you know. If you don't know who she is, then you're missing out.
Yes, she's amazing. And if you're interested in strong female leaders, entrepreneurship, and wine, then this episode is for you. And we're really excited for you to learn more about Katie.
Well, we are here with Katie Finn. Katie, we're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us in our Few podcasts. And we're going to have a lot to talk about. You have a rich history that is so exciting and so interesting.
Thank you.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I was born in
Exactly.
When it comes to business, this all just kind of fell into my lap. I didn't plan any of this.
Okay.
So my career started almost by accident. I was hyper-focused on what I wanted to do.
Which was?
Well,
poli-sci?
Yeah, I was a poli-sci major.
Art minor?
Art history minor.
Okay.
And I had it all figured out. I was going to become a lobbyist for the AARP, which is the largest, most powerful special interest group in the country. I was going to live in Washington, D.C. I was going to make millions of dollars. I was just going to be a mover and shaker and kicking all sorts of bill butt.
And why did you pick AARP?
Most powerful special interest group.
Didn't know that.
In the country, yeah. They think about, the baby boomers.
That's true.
Everything has just been catered to them their whole lives. And so when it comes to, I thought, being a lobbyist, if I'm going to be pushing for stuff, why not have an army behind me?
That's well said. Well, that's interesting. So you're at UC Irvine, you're in your studies, nothing to do with wine.
No.
How'd you find wine?
So, wine, I think, found me, but I lived in Costa Mesa, Newport Beach area. The cost of living is pretty high. Yeah. And I needed a job that was flexible enough so I could continue going to school, but I could still make enough money to afford living in Costa Mesa, Newport Beach. And of course, keeping up with the Joneses, because in university, I had to have my handbags and my designer jeans and all the rest of it. So I had worked in restaurants before, but I think my first job was TGI Fridays. So not exactly the pinnacle of luxury fine wine and food pairings.
What was their best appetizer? Was it their wings?
I have no idea.
All right.
But their
You're making me hungry.
but their black and Cajun chicken sandwich, I still have dreams about.
Ooh,
that thing was
that's
so
probably
good.
It.
Oh, yeah. But so I applied at Fleming's Prime Steakhouse,
Yeah.
which in Fashion Island in Newport Beach at the time was the #1 restaurant. Right. I mean, that was where all the movers and shakers and money makers went when they got off work. So I applied to be a cocktail waitress. And at the time, they were famous for having 100 wines by the glass.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much, right? So during my interview, I promised to study, and I would learn the list backwards and forwards, and they could give me a test. And if I passed the test, could I get the job?
Wow.
And, it kind of speaks to that same thing. You can teach someone wine or food, but you can't teach them personality. So
True.
I have to think maybe they liked me.
Yeah.
And the wine knowledge was like, okay, if she can do this, then maybe we'll give her a shot.
And how old were you?
Oh, I would have been 22.
Wow.
22.
That's very ambitious.
Yeah. As I was studying the wine list, I was discovering so many parallels with what I was learning in politics and history and international relations. And it was mirroring what was happening in these countries where the wine was coming from. And the wine was just super fun.
Yeah.
So great example, Franco, Spain, the White Terror, right? His dictatorship. He was a teetotaler and ripped out all these vines, ancient vines, in Spain to make way for other kinds of agriculture. And so historical vineyards, families, livelihoods just wiped away. And while that was obviously a very powerful moment in history, in the wine world, it was a really powerful moment too, right? And there was a lot of rebuilding. And so that kind of geeky info.
That's really cool.
It hooked me.
That is really cool.
It hooked, right? It's
you got me.
It's so interesting. All of these wine producing countries have had so many struggles and, wars and famine and drought and disease, pestilence. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse kind of have wiped their feet on every one of these countries. And to see how they rebuild, to see how it affected the wine industry just captivated me. So I started learning as much as I can, diving in as much as I could. I lived really close to a place called High Times Wine Cellar.
Okay.
Like 2 streets away,
wow.
Walking distance. And I, didn't have a lot of money, but I would go in there frequently, like every other day kind of thing. And I would see what kind of sub $15 bottles of wine I could find that were from various places because I wanted to taste everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's incredible. You make it sound more than just drinking wine for me.
Well,
now there's stories behind it.
It is more than just drinking. And it's, wine is not like other alcoholic beverages, right?
True.
And there's been a lot of kerfuffle in the wine industry lately. You've had sober October and dry January, and there's a really big kind of sober curious moment going on. And I think, to your point, it's dangerous and reckless to lump a bottle of wine in with a bottle of Jack Daniels or a Jell-O shot. It's not the same thing. There's a reason why a bottle of wine is 750 milliliters. It's meant to be shared. I mean, you can drink one by yourself. I'm not going to judge you, right? I mean, you do you. But and it has a lifespan, right? You open up a bottle of Grey Goose and you drink a quarter of it. You put the cap back on and you can come back to that bottle of Grey Goose a month, 2 months, 3 months later, and it's the same. You can't do that with wine.
Nope.
So there's something very special, I think, about it, which is why it's been around for thousands and thousands of years and why it tends to captivate people's interest.
That's pretty cool. That's very true. So let's go back real quick. You're at Fleming's. Now you have the wine list front and back memorized, 100 glasses or 100 bottles of wine by the glass. And then what happened after that? What was your journey?
So I ended up taking a study abroad program and went to France, Italy, and Switzerland. And it rocked my world.
I was going to say, that was for you, that stage in life and that moment in time, that was just eye-opening.
Yeah.
Right? Life-changing.
Well, and I went, I didn't go for wine. I went as an art history minor, right?
Which is amazing.
Right. So, I mean, and that was such a passion of mine too. I loved the iconography and I loved the stories behind these paintings and these pieces of art and sculptures and statues and you name it. And so to walk in there and see The Birth of Venus by Botticelli, right? To just be in front of these moved me. And I would then at the end of the day get to go out to bistros and eat the food, drink the wine. And then on the weekends I could go out to wine country and go explore. And so I was just immersed in every passion I had. It was so incredible. And it really solidified my love of wine because I realized as much as art history is fascinating and it's a great thing to kind of have when you watch Jeopardy and you can answer a bunch of Jeopardy questions when you have that kind of knowledge. But what was I going to do as an art history, expert?
Right.
And the wine just being outside, everything, I just knew I was all in.
That's amazing. And then your journey takes you to Hawaii.
Well, so when I came back from studying abroad, I did not go back to Fleming's.
Okay.
Right next door to Fleming's was Roy's Hawaiian Fusion. And I applied for a job there. I wanted to change it up, and I was kind of done with my 100 wines by the glass being a cocktail waitress.
There you go.
And Roy's hired me right away and discovered kind of inadvertently that I had this passion about wine. And at the time, their wine director was this amazing guy named Randy Caparoso. And he is the one that created the progressive wine list. So that was his brainchild, where you took a list and went from lightest, medium to fullest body.
Interesting.
In progression. So it was easier for the guest to identify what wine on the list, if they had never had it before, that would probably be best suited to them.
Wait, hold on. Explain this to me. Is this now standard practice?
No, it's not standard practice, and it should be.
Because usually it's by the price point.
There is no rule.
Red, white, price point.
Yes. Yes. There's no standard operating procedure for how a restaurant can put its wine list together.
Okay.
Randy was just a genius. And I don't want to keep saying was. He's very much alive and well. He's but no longer with Roy's. And he had it figured that the wine list could be exciting, adventurous, different. Unique wines could be presented on this, that even if you hadn't heard of it and you were timid and thought, well, I don't want to order something, and what if I hate it and what if I don't like it?
Yeah.
And so he figured out, well, if we can make this progressive,
very smart,
and we can put these wines in categories instead of by varietal, instead of this is all Chardonnay and this is all Sauvignon Blanc, it was these are light, fruity, crisp, refreshing whites. These are fuller bodied, oakier, heavier.
Very smart.
So smart. Yeah. Because right there, then you have a sommelier basically at your table on the menu guiding you to your preference.
So you're with Roy's, and we could go deeper and deeper into your story, but there's a lot more I want to cover. Yeah,
so we'll move on. I ended up deciding I was going to become a certified sommelier. I was still in school.
Which is one of the hardest exams in the world.
Yes.
In just about any different industry or profession.
Yeah, they do say it's easier to, it would be easier to pass the LSATs, never having opened a law book, than it is to pass the Court of Masters master exam studying for years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So it is incredibly difficult. The introductory certified level that I took is, obviously not anywhere near that difficult, but it is still really challenging. And it's the only exam that I can think of that you're designed to fail. Like, they want you to fail. They don't want you to pass.
Interesting.
Yes. It is. That's what makes it so difficult, I think, is you have everything stacked against you. So I decided, you know what, if I'm this passionate about wine, I just want to get credentialed. Like, I want this to be my thing. I went and passed with flying colors, happy to say. Came back, and Roy's immediately made me the sommelier for the restaurant.
That's fantastic.
And I started doing staff education. I started doing private wine discovery nights for guests. It was I was so happy.
That is awesome. So now you're a sommelier, but was that different at that moment in time as a woman?
Oh, yeah. Well, as a woman and as a 24-year-old woman.
Wow.
I was really young. In fact, I wasn't 24 yet. I hadn't turned 24 yet. I was 23.
So you did at 23 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 23. So no, not taken seriously at all. And in fact, during the exam, the president of the Court of Masters decided that I was going to be the example in front of all of my peers. Day one.
That's never fun.
Yeah, Wednesday morning. I'll never forget it, Monterey Bay. And I'm in a room with about 150, 200 other people taking this exam. And it's a 3-day thing. And the gentleman, you're sitting on a panel, so there's 5 of you at each table. And you're kind of collective. You're like a team, so to speak. So the guy next to me pours me some water and some of it drips onto my lap. And he says, "Oh, sorry." And I said, "Oh, it's okay. No big deal." Meanwhile, the master is speaking for the introduction. And as we're trying to clean up the water that has spilled in my lap, the master is no longer speaking, and he is now standing directly in front of my table. And I just remember sitting there thinking, "Oh, please be looking at the person behind me. Please be looking at the person behind me."
Exactly.
Nope. "Madam, since you have so much to say, on your feet, do the first wine."
Oh, shoot.
And do the first wine? I don't even know what that means. What are you talking about? Do the first wine. And so, all eyes are on me. I'm shaking so bad. I go to pick up the glass and I'm like, and I'm trying to swirl and sniff and my brain is just mush. Because at that point, you have a whole panel of masters sitting there staring at you.
Yeah, this is just...
And I'm in the hot...
Nerve-wracking.
Beyond nerve-wracking. I wanted to throw up, pass out, crawl under the table, anything.
Yeah.
So I just start verbally vomiting words, right? Just it's day bright, star bright, off dry, green tinted. Nothing is making any sense that's coming out.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm so scared.
So you have to take a sip and then describe what you're tasting, right? Is that part of this?
Well, ideally, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But he stops me and says, "Madam, to whom are you speaking to so informally?"
Interesting.
And like a deer in headlights, I just stopped and stared at him. And he said, "You ask permission to address the court."
Wow.
And so I kind of looked around and he said, "Masters and fellow students, may I please address the court? Now you." So, masters, fellow students, may I please address the court? God, it makes me shake even now thinking about it. I'm starting to get sweaty. And so, he nodded and said, "Oh, by all means, please continue."
Yeah, he just, okay.
Right?
That's how we're going to play this.
That's how we're going to play this. Yeah, so I basically get shut up, told to sit back down.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, though, it was probably one of the best things he could have done for me. Yeah. Our first break at 10 a.m., went out to the back of the hotel conference room, and I made more friends. People bum rushed me. "Oh my God, we felt so bad for you. I felt so bad. Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And even though I kind of fell on the sword, I made a lot of friends, and there was a lot of camaraderie that came from that. And so for the remainder of the 2 days, I had a target on me. And every time there was something that came up, it was, "Oh, by all means, please, why don't you tell us?" And it was like,
That was your tackling fuel. It was your extra motivation to basically say, "You know what? All I need is one person not to believe in me. And if you're that that's not going to believe in me,
come at me.
Let's do this."
Totally.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
Well, and so I ended up passing, and I was in the top 3 and people of the percentage of my score.
Awesome.
Which meant the reward for that is you got to go to dinner with the masters.
Of course.
And at the time, this guy was head of the sardine factory. And so we went to the sardine factory, and, there was kind of a, "I knew you had it in you," kind of,
he's
patting on the back like, "Oh,
Eating crow.
Well, no, actually giving himself a ton of credit for, for pushing me to break out of my shell.
Of course,
whatever.
taking credit.
Yeah. So yes, being a Somm at that time was, it was, there weren't a lot of us women.
Well, it just shows that your amazing determination and who you are, a testament to your character and, all the things that you were later on in life going to accomplish. There was no stopping Katie.
That is true. I am tenacious, if nothing.
Yeah, that's true. That's fantastic. Well, let's discover more about your journey. So Katie, tell us how you ended up in Napa Valley along your journey.
Yeah. So I had lived in Hawaii and worked the wine program, became director of Wine for Roy's on the Hawaiian Islands after Randy Caparoso left and went back to the mainland. And I was good in Hawaii for about 3 years. And that was it for me. I didn't love living in Hawaii. At the time, I'm in my early 20s and, I needed more. Yeah. It was pretty sleepy. And so I ended up back in the desert. I feel like I always come back to the desert.
Yeah.
I love it here. It always pulls me back in. And decided I didn't really want to go back into restaurants. I wanted to do something different. The thing about restaurants is, you work when everybody else plays. Holidays, evenings, weekends.
That's true.
I thought, and the restaurant, the wine portion is such a small portion of what we do that I really wanted to focus on wine. And so I had a buddy say to me that he knew someone that was hiring for a distributor in California, Epic Wines, and that I should apply and go talk to the manager. And I did. And Dave, who ended up being my team leader, one of the greatest people I've ever met.
Awesome.
And he took me under his wing, and the desert was an incredibly difficult territory, especially back then. July would come around and you could fire a cannon off and not hit a soul. I mean, it was a mass exodus. So you had a very short window of time. And back then it was very dominated by the two main distributors, Southern Wine and Spirits and Young's at the time. And they had the lion's share of the market. And so being a tiny little distributor, wedging my way in, I had to think of ways to set myself apart and get into these accounts and get a presence on their wine list or their shelf. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do what I do best. I'm going to train, teach, educate. I'm going to bring in that end of it. So if a restaurant brought in wines from me, I said, put me on the schedule for as much as you want. I'll come in and I'll train your wait staff on the wines. I'll tell them what to pair with it.
Awesome.
I'll teach them, all the nuances, what to say. And that really kind of shifted the dynamics. I would do wine dinners for people. I got to work with a place called Cooking with Class.
Oh, yeah.
In La Quinta at the time, and I became their wine director. And we would host wine and food pairings weekly. It blew up. So there came a time when Epic said, well, we really need someone, we need presence in Napa. And you'd be dealing with a lot of people who know.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to get tapped on the shoulder for that in that marketplace.
I didn't want to go.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
intimidating.
that funny?
Right?
I didn't. Well, it wasn't that. I loved it here. I was so happy. I was like living my best life, and but I gave it a lot of thought. And well, I've always had a saying: I'd rather regret something I did than something I didn't do. And I don't want to.
That's Mark Twain.
Is that? Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't create that?
Nope. 20 years from now, you'll have more regrets by the things you didn't do than the things you did.
Absolutely. And I don't want to live like that. I'd rather say, oh, crap, wish I hadn't have done that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, let's press on.
Yeah.
Than always wonder what my life would look like if I had taken a different path. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I love wine. I'm a sommelier. I'm being asked to move to Napa. I'm an idiot if I don't do this. So it was February. I said, okay. I mean, February in the desert, does it get more beautiful here?
No. Then you're going to go.
I went to rainy, cold, gray, dismal, miserable Napa in February. And I was about a week in and I thought, oh, I have made an egregious mistake. Sure. Oh, what have I done?
You just left paradise in terms of weather and
events, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, February, there is everything.
We're in season. That's the hot spot. Yeah.
Fashion shows and charity events and dinners. And I mean, your social calendar doesn't take a break.
Every night.
And being involved with so many restaurants, I mean, I was just the gal about town.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Napa, that's their off season. So they roll up their sidewalks at 8:00. And I just found myself really lonely and very cold.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is terrible. And I didn't get the warmest reception from the Napa locals. I remember I walked into one merchant in St. Helena, and, I came from the desert. I had my high heels and I had my little pencil skirt. And these two guys in their jeans and their puffer vest and their flannel looked at each other and said, Bill, is it the prom? I don't know. It must be. I thought,
here we go.
Maybe, and I think the other one said, I don't know, maybe she's selling insurance or, Yeah. So I quickly thought, okay, I need to get some Bluntstone boots. I need to get some Eddie Bauer flannels. Yep. I need to assimilate here pretty quickly. And, I did, but I didn't. I joke. I mean, I am who I am. So I continued to rock my suede purple high heels all over Napa. Because that actually became my benchmark.
That's awesome.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I was that girl.
There you go. That's
care.
Very cool.
And so I was in this wine mecca, meeting winemakers, meeting principals of wineries, picking up cases of wine from the actual caves to take to restaurants. I could do will calls, which was so new and different for me.
Ooh, that's cool.
It was really cool because these restaurants in the Valley, they knew what was available. Even if it wasn't represented in our portfolio statewide, they'd say, oh yeah, I want a case of the Chapelet Chenin Blanc. I'm like, we don't have that. Yeah, they have it.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, oh, okay, I'll go get it. I'll be right back. So I got to know all of these wineries personally.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, that in and of itself has been the most invaluable thing that I have in my back pocket, because now everywhere I go, I know these people personally.
That's awesome.
It is incredible.
That is really exciting. That's a great experience.
Thank you everyone for watching. This episode is sponsored by Schein Wealth Management. We've been in the Coachella Valley for 40 years and we're built for the next 40 years. You can find us at BlankySheinWealthManagement.com. And now back to the episode.
Anything else exciting happen in Napa while you were there?
Oh yeah, I met my husband.
There you go.
Dive Beer Bar.
Okay.
No, pool. It was like a pool hall.
You're taking a night off of just having some wine?
No, I think I was. And I'm shameful, I know, but I'm a Budweiser in a can kind of girl.
There you go.
I mean, that's my Canadian hillbilly roots, I think. So we had been to Uptown Theater, my girlfriend and I, and it was a school night. It was a Wednesday night. And after we got out of Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings at Uptown Theater, which was great, we weren't quite ready to call it a night yet. So right down the street was this terrible pool hall, Bilko's. And we decided we were going to go play some darts, drink some beer, hang out, and, have a naughty night.
Very cool.
And in walks this cute boy. There weren't a lot of them. And so he stood out. He's very tall and dark and handsome. And as he walked by me, I said, hey, you, tall stuff. Why don't you give me a little shimmy?
Oh, my goodness.
Did.
That's the opening line.
That's my opening line.
That's awesome.
And he did. He stopped and he shimmied for me. And I was like, oh, yes, I like
That's
this
so
guy.
Great.
Yeah. So hung out there for the night, drove me back to my car and asked for my phone number. And I remember thinking, I am never going to hear from this guy ever again. And he called me the very next day. He didn't do that swingers thing where he waited. No, he called me the next day.
That's a great movie, by the way, with John Favreau and
and Vince Vaughn.
If you haven't seen that, and that's actually a great one because they go through the whole. You leave a voicemail, and the first voicemail you leave is not the one that you want, and you try to re-record it, and it just goes over and over. So that's a great movie.
Yeah, it definitely.
But he broke the mold by saying, I'm not going to wait the 3-day rule to call the gal that I just met, which really is a stupid rule. I mean, if you like the gal, call the gal.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really understand the whole 3-day thing either, but he called.
Just guys being stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do that sometimes.
We do.
Yeah, called me the next day, took me out on a proper date, not to a dumpy pool hall, and we've been together now almost 14 years.
That's awesome. Couple children?
Yep, 2 boys, and yeah, just realized when it was time to leave Napa and come back, it was pretty obvious.
Awesome.
Yeah, I had my oldest son, and while Napa is great and a playground for adults, it's not a great place. I don't think personally
Not good
to raise
for soccer on Saturday.
One is not
in
a great
February.
place to raise kids.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't a lot for
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah. Especially when you have the desert to fall back on as an alternative.
Right.
There's not even a choice.
Exactly. So my grandmother had developed Alzheimer's, and taking care of her from 600 miles away was becoming increasingly challenging. And I was expecting our second kiddo. We needed a bigger house. We didn't have $3 million to buy a bigger house in Napa. And so it just made sense. Time to, take the money and run. Let's go back to the desert. And we did.
So now you're here, and now you have the most successful wine shop in the desert, bar none. You're an owner, entrepreneur, a wife, a mother. How do you do it all?
I don't know. I don't. But I hold on for dear life most of the time.
Well, you never let it see it,
Oh, thank you.
see it show.
It is really hard. It is really hard. Something always has got to give, and it can't be the business. It can't be your kids. It can't be your marriage. So I find, making time to do the things that I used to do, that's what gets cut out. So,
Right.
For me to go get a manicure pedicure, holy smokes, that's like, I won the lottery. That's Disneyland for the day for me, right? Yeah. So it is a juggling act. And when you own the business, the expectation is you're there. You have to be the one that's there doing the FaceTime, shaking the hands, kissing the babies, and setting the tone for how your business runs. You can't, this isn't a hands-off type of business. I don't really know if there is a hands-off type of business, but this isn't something you can I don't think you can invest in, throw money at, and hand the keys to the kingdom to somebody else.
No.
And expect it to be successful.
Right.
Because you'd have no idea what's going on when you're not there. And especially, I think, with wine, what's going out the back door.
Right.
And, to be the one that's saying, this is how we treat our guests. This is the customer service we're delivering. Modeling that, living it every day, and being there is the only way you're going to be successful.
Well, one thing I will say is you attended our Confidence, Women, Wealth, and Wellness Summit in February in Rancho Mirage. And one of the things that I laid out is one of the 7 keys. Actually, it's the 7th key, which is self-care. So one of the things I'm going to urge you to do is take more Katie time. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to do. I can only imagine, especially, all that you have to balance. But hopefully, maybe you can schedule in a mani-pedi for Katie at some point in time.
Oh, the luxury.
That would be amazing.
Yes, that is the goal. And it is a balancing act, and it is putting your priorities in order, and it's making those minor shifts and adjustments and delegating, right? There are a lot of things, not a lot. There are a handful of things that I could probably take off my plate and delegate to somebody else. I am quintessentially type A, right? I want to do it myself because I know how I want it done. And I'm learning to relinquish some of that control.
Yep.
And discovering too that even though maybe it didn't get done the way I would have done it, it helps me learn that, well, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Look at that. I like the way you did that. And I never would have thought of that.
Exactly.
And that's been a really useful tool for me as well.
That's with the type A personalities as we are, and business owners and entrepreneurs, one of the greatest tools and techniques that I learned as you're owner operating a business and you're, front facing with clients and you're always trying to do it all. There's days where you also have to you're working in the business, and then you have to take away and work on the business. And when you step away and look on on the business itself, you then can prioritize, okay, this is what, Katie's highest and best use of time, effort, energy. Mm-hmm. And then the rest, maybe we could delegate and see how it goes. And so that's how you get more Katie time, more scale, and maybe more sleep.
Sleep. Oh, blessed be sleep.
That'll be good.
It would be good. Yes. So eventually that's the goal. And I'm like anybody else. I'm a work in progress. So I keep trying to get my focus back and, okay, do I really need to be the one on my hands and knees on the floor doing the stocking right now?
Right.
No, I probably don't. Is it kind of cathartic for me sometimes? Yes, it is. But again, where is my time best served? And as a business owner, you can get caught in the minutia where you lose sight of that. And it's easier than you think. Well, not you. You know how easy it is to lose sight of, staying on task and focusing on the utmost important thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's okay. You don't need to do this right now, Katie. Go do what you're good at.
It's so true. It's that internal conversation all the time, fighting yourself from, the things you need to be focused on and everything else.
Right.
One of the things that if you're locally in the desert, stop by Katie's wine shop, and it always brings a smile to my face, even before I step in and see you, simply because outside she has on an easel, chalked up one of the greatest, funniest sayings of the day. I don't know where you get them, but they're hilarious.
Thank you.
But it always, you read it before you step inside, and then you see Katie and her staff and how amazing they are. It brightens your day. It doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. And one of the quotes that Jenica always says, I don't know if she got it from your wine shop or you should use hers, is when she's talking to her kids and she's sometimes upset when something doesn't go right. And she says, you just be careful, because your wine is why you got here and wine's why you stay here.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes.
And so when they say, Mom, you're drinking a glass of wine, she's like, just be careful.
Yes.
Wine's why you got here and wine's why you stay here.
My son actually now pours me a glass of wine when I get home. He's like, Mom, you're here. Here, you sit down, Mom. I'll pour you a glass of wine. Oh, excellent, son.
Yeah, he is sommelier in training.
That's right. That's why
really
he's
good.
My favorite. No,
Exactly. Well, Katie, you've had such an amazing journey, so well accomplished, and there's so much more that we're going to see come from you in all of your development, not only with your growing family and your business and everything else that Katie has that you put your mind to. But it wasn't always an easy journey. Are there some experiences along the way that were rough? We always like to have, women like you reach out to our audience and maybe share some times that were turbulent, but show that how you can just persevere and maybe provide some encouragement on some personal experiences that maybe weren't the best.
Yeah. So as a sales rep, specifically, I in the restaurant business, there's always going to be those, customers that are grouchy, grumpy, and they're going to take their anger out on the waitress or whoever. That's I can deal with that, right? Kill them with kindness, or as Dana, my employee, says, you just pop your umbrella up and you just let their negativity fall over the umbrella.
There you go.
I like that a lot.
That's really good.
There are some things that happen that are just too egregious to pop up an umbrella for. And when I became a sales rep, I really saw the darkness and underbelly of how restaurateurs, how buyers can treat sales reps. And I have to say, I think it probably holds true to the same extent for medical sales reps, or, anytime you're slinging a bag in the trenches and you're going into these accounts, you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities,
Yeah.
and you're trying to sell a product. You're trying to get them to buy the product. And so obviously you're trying to build a relationship. You're trying to be as sweet and approachable or as knowledgeable, right? But you're putting out there that, you want this business.
Yeah.
And I had done my first wine dinner, where it was a restaurant in Redlands. And we were closing up, and I was putting wines away and getting packed up. And the owner of the restaurant informed me that he had a motel room that I was to go to. And I was so floored. It was such a gut punch.
Yeah, that's infuriating.
And I kind of just shook my head and, no, would you want to do business here? And I thought, oh my God, I'm being solicited right now. I'm basically being told if I want to continue to sell this account wine, this man's asking me to sleep with him. And I got my things and got out of there as fast as I could. I got into my car and I called Dave, who was my team leader, my boss. And I was in tears at this point. And Dave is, like I said, just such a support and an ally. And he said, you are not ever going back to that account again. He said, in the morning, you're going to call accounting. You're going to have them wipe that account off, and they are closed. No one's going to visit them anymore.
That's excellent.
And I realized, oh, I can fire an account.
Yeah.
I can do that. And I didn't realize it. I had a job to do. My job was to open as many accounts as I could, see as many buyers as I could. And that was pivotal because I realized, oh no, I don't have to take this. Yeah. Oh no, this is absolutely not appropriate. When I moved to Napa, a very well-known restaurant, very well-known buyer in the area, used to text me horrific images of himself, of women in the adult film industry that he said I looked like. And once again, and I, by this point I'd been in the business long enough where it was like, nope.
Yeah.
And we're done here.
Yeah.
And that was really confidence building to know, look, I'm not just some tart going around slinging a wine bag.
Yeah.
I know my stuff and I'm good at my job. And if you want this type of relationship with a sales rep, it's not me. So you go find somebody else and I'm going to go darken another doorstep. And that it was just a powerful feeling.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's, wow. Two powerful stories. But it's great to know that you had the support, but also the strength within to say, nope, we're done. We're done. This is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So yeah, this wasn't easy for a woman in the sommelier wine world, being so young at it too.
Yeah. And I mean, even still, I'm not young anymore, but as a retail owner, there's still this idea that I have a male partner, right? So at any given point, if I have a male employee, automatically they're either my business partner or my husband. It doesn't matter, who they are. They're obviously somehow affiliated because I'm just a girl, a woman. I can't do this. And people assume my husband, because he comes into the shop sometimes during tastings and hangs out, they always assume that he's my partner and that he's affiliated with the business. And I always get a chuckle when people find out that, no, that's not my husband, that's my employee. Or no, my husband is a paramedic. He has nothing to do with this. He's in depletions. Listen, he drinks the wine, but he's not involved in any other capacity. The response that I get is, oh, good for you. Yeah. Thanks. Just lucky, I guess.
Oh, shit.
Where it's like they're so surprised. In today's day and age.
Yeah. Wow.
In today's day and age, the people are still so surprised that I own and run my own business.
I am so in awe of not only you, your strength, but every woman that has to go through that, because I would just punch them. How do you not just punch the
Yeah, well,
swear to God.
Yeah, no, kicking people in the shins and punching them is not good for business, Rob. That is true. So I laugh. Oh, I have to tell you this one last thing. Dana and I, this was in the old shop before we moved, and this man walked in. And he's a great guy, and he's become a regular customer. So I just want to put that out there first.
So I won't call him enough.
No, well, yeah, you can because
Okay.
I mean, but he had just obviously gotten into a Donnybrook with his wife, and keep in mind he's a much older gentleman, and he comes in and he is grumbling. I mean, just grumbling about how he doesn't understand women. And keep in mind he's talking to two women right now. We're the only two working in the shop, and he says, she tries on a pair of shoes. She likes them. Does she buy them? Nope. She puts them back. And then 2 days later, she wants those damn shoes. And then I got to get back over there and get the, and you know what? The shoes are gone. Why the hell did she buy the shoes? So he's just going off on this tangent. And I'm like, sir, can I help you find some wine? Oh,
No.
yeah, she wants wine. All right. She wants this certain wine. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. Before I can say another word, he looks at Dana and I, and he says, you want to know when this country went to hell? When women got the right to vote.
Oh, shit.
And Dana just kind of goes, I just burst out laughing. I just can't control myself. I start laughing out loud because he's just so mad and so involved in his own struggle that he was oblivious to his surroundings, to who he was talking to.
You guys provide therapy there then, I guess.
To this day, it is one of the funniest moments when that was when the country went to hell, when women got the right to vote. I didn't know that, but
Did he get to buy the wine before it sold out?
he did.
Okay.
He did. And like I said, and
Was
now
he a hero at home then?
he comes, I think probably no shoes, but he got the wine.
Yeah, that's...
But, and he comes in often and is a delightful guy. I love chatting
awesome.
with him. He's very knowledgeable, very funny, and very much in a heated moment said something that is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. It's
Well, that's amazing. You guys definitely provide a great sort of family-like, atmosphere. You genuinely care. Your whole staff. When I walk in, they're like, "Hey," it's like Norm. Cheers.
We try. That's what we aim for.
Yeah, and it's like that's an additional layer of you guys are genuine and authentic and extra feeling. You guys care, and then you have just great support. Great. Hey, by the way, and I walked in the other day and I was on a mission in and out, and you guys had a full wine shop. You had a wine tasting.
Yes.
And immediately, one of your staff says, "Would you like a little bit of wine?" And I'm like, "I got like steaks and Costco in the car." And next thing I know, I've got wine in my hand and I'm chatting it up and, talking to your husband as well. Didn't ask him if he was the owner.
You're the only one.
Everyone was it was so great. So I'm like, okay, I legitimately have to leave. And you were so great in helping me and gracious, as you guys always are.
Thank you.
But no, I love it. It's a lot of fun. Next time I'll prepare better. We can spend some more time. And
Well, no, I mean, listen, we're good for, I tell people, if you want to call me and tell me, Katie, I'm on my way. I need 4 bottles of wine. I don't want to spend more than $40, $30, $10 a bottle. I don't care how much it is. Can you set them aside? Can I set them aside? Yeah. Honk when you pull out front and I'll run them out for you.
So that is a pro tip. I'm going to take you up on that. I didn't even know that.
Yes, of course.
And another great thing is that, you guys curate only the best on your shelves. So you do the homework for us, and then you're also the expert within, and then you're also the price point. You're like, okay, Rob, what are you looking at? And I'm like, okay, 25, for, 2 or 3 at 25. And you're like, here you go.
Yeah, I taste everything. I realized I taste about 6,000 wines a year.
How do you get that job? I'm going to kill my guidance counselor.
Exactly. When my grandfather, when he was still alive, was trying to figure out what I was doing with my life and my career, and my father was trying to explain to him what a sommelier is.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, very Irish. And my grandfather could not figure out, so I'm not becoming a lawyer. That's what so she's not a lawyer. No, she's not. She's a sommelier. Yes. And couldn't understand it until finally it clicked. He goes, Lord be Jesus, she gets paid to drink. And then I was the favorite. I was the smartest one in the family. Yes. Like, yeah, I have life figured out.
That's awesome. Well, in honor of your family, do you have any whiskey in your shop?
No.
You're going to have to start.
I know. I'm wine and beer only right now. And that's pretty much my focus.
Awesome.
I don't know if I would be good at curating whiskeys. I'm not. I'd need to hire someone that has a good whiskey palate. So stay tuned. We'll see.
That'd be good. Well, Katie, we totally enjoyed our time together. Thank you for being here.
This was fun.
And again, go visit Katie and her team at the Desert Wine Shop in La Quinta, California. You will not be disappointed.
Katie was wonderful. I'm so glad that we had her on the podcast, and thank you everyone for watching.
You're exactly right, Madison. That was one of the best episodes we've had to date. It's got something for everybody. But before we go, Madison, can you read us a quote that's apropos for this episode?
Yes. This quote is by Kate Hudson, and it goes, "You are at the mercy of your crop." And I love that. Though we are telling a story, every bottle has a story. And when you sit down and drink it, you feel connected to that story.
At the end of the day, we thank you to our audience that's been so dedicated and so just generous with their time. Sharing is caring, so please like, subscribe, and share this with a friend or family because we want to continue to grow our audience. Until next time, thank you for watching.
This podcast is brought to you by David Field Producer. It is produced and directed by David Field and Kristen George. And its mix, edit, and socials by Kristen George. Schein Wealth Management is a group of investment professionals registered with Hightower Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC, and with Hightower Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Securities are offered through Hightower Securities, LLC. Advisory services are offered through Hightower Advisors, LLC. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities. No investment process is free of risk, and there is no guarantee that the investment process or the investment opportunities referenced herein will be profitable. Past performance is not indicative of current or future performance and is not a guarantee. The investment opportunities referenced herein may not be suitable for all investors. All data and information referenced herein are from sources believed to be reliable. Any opinions, news, research, analysis, prices, or other information contained in this research is provided as general market commentary. It does not constitute investment advice. Schein Wealth Management and Hightower shall not in any way be liable for claims and make no expressed or implied representations or warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the data and other information, or for statements or errors contained in or omissions from the obtained data and information referenced herein. The data and information are provided as of the date referenced. Such data and information are subject to change without notice. This document was created for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are solely those of Schein Wealth Management and do not represent those of Hightower Advisors, LLC, or any of its affiliates.